all about that man today, wasn't it? Sebastian Vettel, thank you very much for pressing red and joining us for the first F1 forum of the 2011 F1 season as the sun starts to set over Albert Park. It's worth showing you actually what goes on here. We didn't have time on BBC One to get involved in this, but there they are. The people that make Formula One what it is, the fans here in Australia. They turn out in their hundreds of thousands. They make the atmosphere brilliant. And it's good to have them here year after year. Interestingly, Bernie Eccleston wasn't here this year. He was in America, apparently, talking about another race. But maybe to just put the pressure on the organisers here somewhat. But let's stick to the racing, because that's what we love. David, how was it for you? It sounded great.
Oh, thanks for that. I thought it was a good race. Actually, having to contribute to commentary means I don't get to sit back and enjoy the race in the same way.
Lobster, thermidor, champagne, he had it all today.
I'm sure, but well, he's a star, isn't he? So that's why he gets treated in such a way. But yeah,
just getting carried away because
bottle of water and a little chocolate bar.
Yeah.
But no, I thought there was a lot there for us to get stuck into. It wasn't a classically great race, but nonetheless, we've got a lot more information now on which to build. I think there's some interesting talking points from that. You know, Perez getting away with just using one set of each of the tyres. And obviously a few incidents and accidents along the way.
Okay, well, we've got a few cars around us here. We've actually got one of the Saubers, which might be interesting. We've got Toro Rosso and Ferrari. Do you want to take Pete the cameraman and just show him around the car?
Actually, yeah, what I'd love to do, if you're able to come down and look, can you look down through the front suspension? Look at the gap below the floor and the side pod down there. That's a very interesting way of trying to use the aerodynamics. The downside of that, of course, is that you move everything up, so you get a slightly higher centre of gravity. The upside is a lot more airflow along the back, and evidence would be that the Toro Rosso has been showing a lot better pace than last season. Over here with Ferrari, this one here of Fernando Alonso, looking a bit battle scarred there. He wasn't expecting to be in the mix probably as much going into the year. They certainly showed in pre-season testing that we were probably around second quickest to Ferrari, but to Red Bull, sorry, but something here this weekend that didn't work out. Some interesting little details. Adopted a similar exhaust system to the Red Bull. You can see down here the exhaust gases come out just in front of the front wheel there, energizing the diffuser. And interestingly, if we just come across and look at the Sauber, they can't afford to do fancy things with their exhaust. They've just got an old-fashioned tailpipe hanging out the back there. Looks like something that you've got in the back of your Mark II Escort rather than a Grand Prix car, but nonetheless, this is Kobayashi's car, but in the hands of Perez, and a pretty remarkable start to his Grand Prix career. That's as much as I can see down here, Jake. What do you think? Were you listening to that? I don't think you were.
Yeah, I was. Well, I was wondering what Eddie was doing. He just sort of decided to run off and talk to various people. It's great to see the cars sort of close up like this, because when we're on the television, particularly when they're gunning around here 180 miles an hour or whatever, you never really get a chance to get close up and look at these things, and they're so protective of them.
Well, you know, I think this year we're in an exalted position. Very seldom would you get in amongst the scrutineers, because also I'm sure there will be some criticism from the... we will be criticised by some of the teams because they will be a little bit anxious that we're showing too much to the opposition. They're not worried about the people seeing it. They are very concerned that the other teams are looking at what their little tweaks are.
Well, in case you trip and fall onto one of the cars while they're under these conditions, let's walk away, make our way down the pit lane, and we can have a look at what goes on in the garages and show you what happens after a Grand Prix when all the fun and games is over. Great to see the fans still here, taking photos, getting involved. So, what have we learned from this race then? Let's start with the tyres. We spoke about multiple pit stops, and we ended up with a Grand Prix where one of the guys, Sergio Perez, as David has just been talking about, did one stop. And if I was at home watching this, I'd be wondering how is that possible?
Well, it is totally confusing, because coming here, no one guessed that we'd be possibly finishing the points with one stop. I have to say, in my opinion, Petrov did unbelievably brilliant, but the driver of the weekend for me was Perez. This was spectacular. First time, one stop in a Sauber, finishing seventh. But putting that to one side, the tyres are confusing. We saw Mark Webber. For me, I think he was very hard on the car. He certainly was hard on the tyres. He didn't use them properly. And then that's the whole total confusion, because you see Perez doing such a good job. So I don't know where we are with the tyres. We'll have to wait a race or two.
Well, they've obviously got something on their car which allows them not to get into that critical stage where when you've worn off some of the gauge, you just fall off the face of the earth in terms of lap time. You know, he was able to maintain good lap times throughout the race. I think that you know, if they weren't looking at it before, they'll certainly have a closer look at that Sauber to try and understand what exactly they've got on the car that maybe allowed them to do it. Maybe it is that old-fashioned tailpipe.
Yeah.
None of these exotic tailpipes that the other teams have.
But his lap speed was really consistent and very good. He drove a storming race.
Great debut. Absolutely great.
As a driver, how much can you change your driving style to protect tyres and to drive to the race conditions? Is it something that's easy to do, or do you lose raw speed because of that?
Yeah, it's very difficult to do in modern Formula One. You know, these engines are so peaky, they lack a lot of torque. You've got to keep mid-corner speed up. You know, they're like little Formula 3 cars in some respects. You know, you watch the in-car footage, they're just flicking away at the gears to keep the thing moving. So it is difficult, you know, because a key area of taking off load from the tyre would be, you know, going through the turning circle, going through the apex of the corner. So it's something that I don't think they're really able to manage. You know, it's maybe they can do it more in intermediates or a wet, but on the slick tyre, you have what you have. Your car either works nicely, and you get a good balance mechanically. Things like, you know, trying to feed the throttle in, and the good old days when you had lots of torque, then that would be an issue. Nowadays, they don't do it. You're on the throttle or off the throttle.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I've stopped us here, and Pete, if you come round, you can see behind us actually, this is the Mercedes garage. Now, this is a team who obviously won the title under the guise of Brawn into 2009. They raced last year. They didn't feel that the car was perfect. Michael Schumacher struggled. 3 podiums for Nico Rosberg. They thought they brought a fantastic upgrade, and this was going to be a good race for them. After we spoke to Ross Brawn, he thought sort of 6th or 7th on the grid, and therefore a finishing position was what they would be after. Give us an idea of the frustration in a team, Eddie, because you've been there when you gear up all winter and both cars are out within 2 laps of each other in the race.
Well, it's actually worse than that, because I think there's actually a problem about pace here. They really need to make sure that they need some quick updates, because right at the moment, previously we had 4 teams at the front, of which they were 1. Clearly they're not there now. And the people who have joined them are the Renault team, and in particular the Sauber team. And now they have to look over their shoulder and say, well, hang on a second, let's reevaluate this situation. Who are the people we're really fighting against? And they have to include those teams in this mix.
And a bit like when a driver keeps his visor down, as you pointed out with Nico Rosberg when he's frustrated. We've walked all the way down here, every garage open, people working away quite happy. Here, large pieces of grey curtain in front of the cars. Is that because they're doing something special, or is that because they're saying, go away world, we're not happy at the moment?
Well, they're not allowed to put up these banners during the race weekend, and you know, when they're stripping the cars down now, these cars won't go back to base. They'll be prepared here and then shipped off to Malaysia for the second Grand Prix. So the Grand Prix weekend is effectively over. They don't need to show the world what they're doing. You know, the car at the moment isn't the quickest car out on the grid, but there will be some trick parts on there. Every one of the teams, even Hispania, will have something which is potentially worth copying, but you know, you're going to try and hide that as best you can.
But David, it's wrong, isn't it? Fundamentally, it's wrong. These people have paid in here. We are huge fans, us included. But look at the guys out there. They've probably saved for fortune. Most of those people are probably gap year people from England. And look, there's Red Bull. They've won. There's no big banner up there. There's no cloaking.
There's also no cars there.
But that's a good point.
I just point out that small detail, EJ.
Sorry.
Oh, but hold on. There is a fold-down chair.
Yeah.
No, but Eddie, it was a good point. So,
please.
Thanks for sharing.
Do I have to listen to you just because it's your birthday? Are you trying to embarrass me more than I already am?
Well, it's only just started. I'm looking forward to the next few races.
Oh, dear.
Okay, we're going to make our way into the paddock.
1-0 to you.
Plenty of people to talk to, plenty of news to hoover up. We'll also be joined by Martin Brundle, who will take us through a few of the highlights and a few of the incidents during the Grand Prix. But while Red Bull party away and enjoy another win for the team, bearing in mind they're not that old as a team, they've enjoyed a lot of success just recently. We'll show you the highlights of the 2011 Australian Grand Prix.
22 of the world's finest drivers waiting on 5 simple red lights, and then the season is underway. Vettel gets away well from pole position. Webber follows him closely. The McLarens and Webber's ahead of Hamilton down into the first corner. Hamilton had a very poor start, but he's back up the inside. No contact at the moment. Button getting sandwiched out by Ferraris. Then at the back of the field, the 2 Toro Rossos seem to be too close for comfort as we head down to turn 3. Leaves all over the racetrack. And is that Petrov up into 3rd place? It is. So it's Massa, I believe, in 4th place. And Petrov with a brilliant start. Williams in the background already in the gravel trap. And look at the lead that Vettel has already. So Hamilton then back into 2nd place. And then Webber, Petrov, Massa, Button, Rosberg. Look at this, Button charging at Felipe Massa.
This should be the moment that Jensen should be able to deploy his DRS. The line is just here, the other crossing it now, and he is in the window. Let's see if it pops open on the start finish. There it is. And he'll be in the slipstream, and in theory should be able to gain about 12 kilometers an hour in top speed.
Well, it's not enough, is it? It didn't do the job. And look at Button now trying to go around the outside, and he's going to have to go through the escape road. He'll have to let Massa back past, otherwise he'll be taking a stop-and-go penalty. And this is going to confuse it. If Alonso comes through, then Button will have to let the pair of them through. In fact, if Ferrari is smart here, they can absolutely, and that's what's going on. Alonso's up the inside, so Button's now got to let, surely, I think, both Ferraris through, David.
He gets on the outside on the run out of turn 10, holds the position, and then he just knows that 2 into 1 isn't going to go through turn 12 and cuts to the inside of that curve.
So drive through for car 4 for exceeding the track limits. I say pretty much as we thought, and pretty much as I would have done. I'm sorry for Jensen. Barrichello steaming up the inside, and that was only ever going to be contact.
That was a bit of a desperate move, unfortunately, from our most experienced driver.
And Button is all over the back of Kobayashi. He's got good big max at the end of the straight though, and braver on the brakes. Well, there it is then. So there's an overtake using a Button. Hamilton's just had a really bad lap. There it is. It's a 1 minute 34.2 because he runs wide. And
his under tray is broken, Martin. If you see in there, before he went off the circuit, that is a critical area of the car for performance.
Jensen Button then recovering from that drive-through all over the back of Massa, and his rear wing is up and running, and he's through brilliantly, so no problem there. As we watch the fight between Felipe Massa and Sebastian Buemi.
You can see them closing the gap. He's got his DRS deployed, and this should be an opportunity, and in fact, there you go. Clean manoeuvre.
Mark Webber only 5th here in his home Grand Prix. I think he's going to be pretty despondent with that. Sebastian Vettel is driving to the line for his 11th Grand Prix victory. Red Bull's first Australian victory from a man who's led virtually every lap of the last 3 Grand Prix.
Well, it wasn't a classic, but it was a decent Grand Prix. We've lost Eddie again. Don't worry, he's on his way back.
No, I'm okay.
You're okay? Where were you?
Just suffering from that gross embarrassment that David just cut me. I mean, he really cut me with my pants down, more or less, then, didn't you, David?
That's a visual I'd rather not have, thanks.
Well, thanks to Andrew_Lally on Twitter, who says you should have got that fold-down chair signed by Eddie Jordan for a charity auction. Plenty of people saying that was a bit of priceless stuff on the forum. Please do get in touch with us here on the F1 forum. We have a new hashtag on Twitter we'd love you to use. It is #BBCF1. I'm pleased to say it's been trending worldwide for most of the day. Interestingly, these are the current trending topics on Twitter. This is in the UK. BBC F1, Petrov, KERS, DRS, F1, Massa, Vettel, Rubens. There's a few Formula One fans using Twitter on this Sunday morning, so thanks for getting up, making a cup of coffee and getting involved in F1. I'm at Jake Humphrey F1, so let's go through and give you a few questions that are coming in. Good one for you, David. We've discussed this with Eddie as well already. This is from Sims PJ. Why did the stewards not advise McLaren on the Button incident, and do you think Ferrari pitted on purpose?
Well, I think that first of all, it's not up for the FIA to advise on what a team should do. It's up to the team to make their decision what they want to do, and it's for the FIA and the stewards to decide on particular penalties. So, you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but and bear in mind that is one of the fastest corners on the track. So maybe Jensen genuinely did think he had his nose ahead of Fernando, but obviously he didn't. And ultimately, if the team were able to replay that, you know, it's interesting actually. You'd think that even if we're dealing with the live feed, you'd think maybe back at base they'd be able to sort of replay, look at it again, quickly advise them, look, you've got to move out.
At home you can rewind your TV and watch something again and pause it when you want to. I don't think there's any way that they didn't know whereabouts on the track the two cars were. I mean, how normal is it for a team to say, well, let's ask the FIA and wait for their reply?
Well, some people do it that way, but in this case, in my opinion, start of a season, this wasn't even blurred, it wasn't grey. This was, for me, clear. This was frustration, partly. Button making several efforts before, lap after lap. It didn't happen. for me, he must have known his front wheel was not in front of Massa's wheel. So I believe he should have told the team, listen, I think we better give way here. And had he done that, he would have suffered a far less penalty than having to do a drive-through.
JLL 25, men of the day for me, David and Martin, great commentary.
Well done, my boy.
I'm glad you only get the good stuff on there.
Looks like a picture of your mum and dad on there. I'm joking. Here's a good one. This is from actually a lot of people asking about this. Nick Bowater, Dolph 7800, LJ Stanton, DRS, and the lack of overtaking from DRS today. People are saying either will they change the rules or should they have put it in a different place here, namely between turns 2 and 3 is what people are talking about.
Surprisingly to me, because it's not something we ever really monitored when I was in the car, the longest straight is the run from turn 16 down to turn 1. You're 10 seconds of 100% throttle. I always would have put my money on the fact that it was between turn 2 down to turn 3, but anyway, that was a decision that was taken, and the FIA have said all along that they will adapt it as the season goes on. So I don't think we should write it off. It did work for a couple of overtakes that wouldn't have happened otherwise, and everyone has the system. So, I think it's got potential, and my view is technology is there to be exploited in Formula 1. I don't see the difference between having a DRS or having a turbocharger and a boost button. You're deploying the technology at your disposal to try and get around the track as quickly as possible.
But David, the legislators will be disappointed because it hasn't really done what we'd hoped it would do. We saw time after time the rear wing disappear, the gap, the slot in the rear wing happen, and the car doesn't make the pass. That's not what really we came here or understood the rules to make happen, to make it more exciting, because that was pure slipstreaming in my opinion. I know you're talking about turbo boost, but I don't necessarily see it the way you see it, and that is that I think that the rule hasn't really exploited what we're hoping.
As always, I will defer to your experience of hanging it out around turn 16, and you know how difficult it is to get right up behind.
I tell you what, Eddie, I can see that our German friends at RTL are currently on a VT. So quickly, Nick over there, ask Nicky Lauda what he thinks of
thank you.
DRS.
Really nice.
Nicky, we've got to ask you a question if you've got half a second. The new rules, do they work?
No, I hate this wing business.
I need you alongside me because that David Coulthard never agrees with me.
But David has no clue. Why does the FIA decide when somebody is passing? I don't understand it. Halfway didn't work anyway.
You'd like a job at BBC because we'd love to have
turbo
you here.
engines?
Huh?
Did you drive with turbo
Sure,
engines? Did you push the boost button or not?
Sure, no, I turned the boost up, but everybody could do the same. Here the FIA decides when you're allowed to pass, and you could pass, he could even pass with the wing up.
Steady on.
It's simple and easy.
Well, you're the 3-time world champion, so I'll listen to your view more than him. But
We defer to Nicky's
Nicky,
greater
I've never
knowledge.
said it before. I'm your biggest fan after just that.
I was me told.
There you go. Eddie's found someone that agrees with him in Formula One. About time, eh?
God, I'm a bit worried now. I don't know anything, and I thought you didn't know anything. So that's 2 out of 3 of us don't know anything. So Jake,
I think we should move on here, Jake.
I think we should. Let's move on and talk actually about a pass that we saw that did involve the DRS, and it was Jensen getting past Kobayashi down there. And we said it at the time, obviously not to you because you were up in the commentary box, but we rode on board with Jensen through that. And don't tell us that there was a lack of skill in that moment. And we were saying we don't want overtaking to be easy. It wasn't exactly easy to get past. It still involved some pretty hot driving from JB to get past Kumimi.
Well, I think so. I didn't design the DRS system, and I didn't put it in the rules. But given it's there, I accept it as being another tool at the driver's disposal. So I don't see the point just to say, oh, this is ridiculous. They've got to use it to the best of their ability. And my view is the overtakes might not have happened down into turn 1. I don't think we've seen so many overtakes into turn 1 in previous seasons. We do see people overtaking into 3 and other places around the track, but there was a couple of moves there which I think were down to the DRS.
Okay, a lot of questions coming in about KERS as well. Trev_81 sums up most of your thoughts. Great race today, but will we now see more teams not bothering with KERS as Red Bull dominated that Grand Prix and didn't have it on the car?
Well, I don't know, David's view is probably different to mine. I'm not a great fan of KERS. I see a lot of problems. The teams themselves don't understand it because it's not always within their own control. And when you have things like that that's outside, can you imagine Adrian Newey? He doesn't quite want it, it's not reliable enough for him, and he didn't use it, and they dominated this race. So you're absolutely spot on. You may find other teams, like they did in the past, just pushing it to one side. It's a confusion, and it's something that's not overall necessary.
You know Adrian quite well. Is he a fan of KERS and he's going to look for ways of getting onto his car, or would he like to keep that car clean and pure and move that weight around where he'd rather have it?
Well, there's a restriction this year on the weight distribution. It was something that's agreed between all the teams. When you have a tyre manufacturer change like we've had, sometimes in the past we've seen people get in a sweet spot, and I'm sure you had it, Eddie, when you had a team. They'd find a sweet spot of weight distribution and they would steal a march on all the other competitors. So everyone agreed this year that there would only be a plus minus 0.5%. So you don't have the advantage of, if you take the KERS out, then you still have to put the ballast pretty much in the same place. So that reduces one argument on that front. I think it's quite straightforward. If we look at 2009, Red Bull didn't run it, and they were still able to win races. It cost them at the start. At that stage, it was still under development, so it was a bit heavier than it is now with the teams that were able to run it in 2009. But it still weighs about 30 kilos, and it needs to be cooled. It generates a lot of heat when it's actually in the charging phase, and that puts other difficulties on the engineering and the packaging of the car. So I think it will be a decision based on what they think the gains are around certain tracks.
I did love this sort of day of wondering about KERS, though. How much ink has been spilt with people writing about a KERS Light that Red Bull have had designed specially, and it's going to be fitted to the car just for off the start? Everyone totally wrong. Just no KERS on the car.
Well, also remember one thing that I think is crucial, particularly with a new tyre manufacturer. KERS will not be helpful to the tyres. It will make it more difficult because of the way the charging thing, and by the way, the dissipation of power. Look, we can go through a whole lot of rigmarole as to why it is. I think KERS doesn't help the balance of the car, and it doesn't help the tyres. And we saw beyond doubt Red Bull, man, they took the advantage.
Well, certainly it puts a lot more heat into one end of the car in braking. You have to go 5% forward on the brake balance. It's like just nipping the handbrake when you go into the turns. We saw all through practice people having incidents that we haven't seen before.
Okay, well, talking of seeing incidents, we can do just that now, because in a new feature for the F1 Forum, Martin is in our multi-million-pound analysis room. There he is. Norma had to go out and get him a cushion this week because that table's not very comfortable, is it, Martin?
It looks remarkably like a shed to me, to be honest, not about a multi-million-pound room. But yeah, we've got a bit of action to show. It'd be nice to analyse. Certainly I'd like to go straight to the start, because so many, as so often happens, afternoons were made or wrecked in the first three corners of the race, actually. If we take a look here at the lineup on the grid, we get underway when the 5 lights go out. And you can see Hamilton got just way too much wheel spin, which put him under a lot of pressure. We now know both of those Red Bull cars were without KERS. So in the second phase of the start, Hamilton was able to defend. But look, Vettel's long gone. Button's sort of moving across now, trying to find himself some space. And Vitaly Petrov is already way up the inside. Good track position. And he's going to help himself to a pass on Jenson Button and Fernando Alonso down into turn 1 to take 4th place. Look how far Vettel's ahead. Jenson's getting squashed out there, and that's what put him behind Massa, which wrecked his afternoon, to say the least. Bit of action going on at the back. So Vettel's just long gone. Hamilton's looking good. Webber's chasing him down. And the next thing is that down into 3, Massa's trying to come down the outside of Petrov. Petrov's having absolutely none of it. It's almost touching wheels. And he's got himself beautifully up into 4th place. And that set the scene for his afternoon. But look, Alonso, we saw him get shoved to the outside of the first corner. And he's in the wars too through the back of the field. It's when you're out of position and you're losing speed, you just keep going backwards. As we see Rubens Barrichello, not for the first time this weekend, taking a trip through the gravel. And look at the lead that Vettel had. It just extraordinary. I think it was 2.4 seconds at the end of the first lap. And if only Mark Webber could have just somehow stayed ahead of Lewis Hamilton there. But look, Petrov then got himself track position. The squabble was about to develop behind him, and that would just absolutely destroy Jenson Button's afternoon. Here's another picture of it. Let's see if we can speed that up a little bit down into the first corner. The perfect start. And we did hear, if you remember when I spoke to Vettel on the grid, we were talking about how you've got to get just the right amount of slippage in those rear tyres to get yourself some traction, about 5% wheel spin. In other words, the rear tyres going 5% faster than the front for maximum traction. And there then is Alonso, look, on the grass, just losing play. And you're now you're going backwards through the pack. You're under attack. You don't know which mirror to look in as you head off down to the ever critical turn 3. So it's all about the start. Hopefully with the tyres at some circuits we might see a little bit more action towards the end of the Grand Prix as well. But back to you, Jake.
Okay, thanks Martin. We'll rejoin you to have a look at some more analysis in a few moments, but we're joined by two men who can be pretty happy with their day's work actually. Kamui Kobayashi and Sergio Perez, who finished 6th and 7th respectively. Your debut in Formula One, apart from winning the Grand Prix, could it have gone much better? It's been a great weekend for you.
Oh, it was really nice. I mean, it's a dream start, no, for me, just to be in the points, to have such a nice race, a good strategy, everything went fine. So it's a debut that I will remember forever.
Great. And Kamui, particularly special for you to have a strong day today. We had the minute silence for your homeland before the race. I'm sure there were many people tuning in back home. Would have taken a lot of heart from another great performance by you.
Yeah, I mean, it's great performance, and especially in this winter, we had really great job from team. I'm very happy. My teammate was strong as well this race. I was really surprised, but I mean, overall, I think we had a really great job in this winter, and I had to appreciate the team.
One of the things we were just talking about earlier is what can a driver do to try and make the tyres last the distance. I was saying I didn't think there was much you could do, from influencing in terms of driving style, but clearly you've unleashed something there. Did you know before the race you could get away with the one stop, or was it something that just evolved when you were out
No,
there?
to be honest, we never thought that we could do only one stop. In the briefing we spoke about 2-3 stops, depending how the race was going. But then I did a very long stint on the Prime. I was everybody was an option, so I lost some position. But then I was very consistent, and then suddenly I dropped a lot. So I came, and when I put the option, I thought it was going to be 10 to 15 laps. So I really pushed. I had Vettel in front of me for some time, so it cost me the 6th position to Button because I lost around 8 seconds. So when he was in front of me, I tried to save a lot because I was losing a lot my front by getting behind him. And then he pit, I overtook him, and then I managed the tires quite nicely. I was not going into the limit, and still my pace was 3-4 tenths away from what I could do. So I'm really happy for the team. It's a great day for the team, for Kamui and myself, so very proud for them.
If you don't mind, I thought that was an unbelievable debut, one of the finest I've ever seen, but I would like to speak to my old overtaking partner from last year. We didn't see you overtaking today. What was the problem?
I mean, today was quite a tricky day for me. I don't know what's happened to the tires, so I don't want to really push too much in the beginning, because maybe another hand, maybe tire gonna change another side, and we had a lot of strong tires in the end. We have like great race, but I mean, tire was not what we expect. Life is very long, so I mean, today was a little bit myself a surprise day, but I think it's a good sign for Pirelli tires.
And how does it make you feel, Kamui, for your new teammate to come in and put in this kind of performance? It puts the pressure on a little bit, doesn't it?
No, I mean, he had a really great performance today, and I know he's strong and he's fast. So I think we are now very good teammate to be together and strong, all the team. And I think it was really great race.
Last year was a very difficult year, as we know, for Peter Sauber, who is probably one of the greatest and nicest men in Formula One currently. And for me, it must vie for the future because, too, the reliability is there, the car is easy on the tyres. You now have to push on and try and get yourselves into the top 3 or 4 positions.
Yeah, I mean, we still didn't expect to be like on the podium, but I think it's gonna be a chance to be very constant in the point. I think this is our always target. So I'm not really looking for podium, but I think this is a really great performance and the team is everybody happy.
Okay, well, good luck for the rest of the season. Welcome to Formula One, and if you think Formula One is all about neatness and perfection, just take a look at the jeans that these two boys are wearing. Gentlemen, you're Formula One racing drivers. You can't be walking around wearing those.
This
Sorry,
is
you're using too much,
This is trendy, Jake. Come on, anyone
don't
who has
go
kids
giving
of their
Eddie
age
any
knows.
tips, or we're in serious trouble. The shirts are bad enough. We can't have ripped jeans as well.
All the
But
budget's gone into the car, clearly.
there you go. That's
Everything
where
goes into the car.
that's where the weight
brave
goes.
enough to wear them, David. Neither am I, mind you.
No, I bet. Guys, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
Good
you.
luck, and we'll see you in Malaysia. Okay, well done. Well, two young talents we got alongside us here, Martin, hey?
Yeah, Eddie Jordan not brave enough to wear some clothes. You're kidding me. That's what I love about the red button. When else are you going to get two drivers fresh out of a Grand Prix just chatting away for minutes on end? It's one of the best parts of the weekend as far as I'm concerned. Let's take another look at some action. This time Jenson Button's near overtake of Felipe Massa, where he ended up getting a penalty. It was down towards that turn 11 and 12 chicane. And Button's got a run on him. He's clearly got a fast car. He's very frustrated now, remember, because he's losing 17, 18 seconds to the leaders. He goes around the outside. Massa, I don't think, shoved him off the road, to be fair. Jenson takes to the escape road, has clearly passed by going way off the road. And I think at that moment he should have let him, well, it's clear, isn't it? He should have let him straight back through. Let's take another view, because then Ferrari could shuffle behind and put him under extra pressure. So he's got extra speed, but Massa's got the inside line. And Jenson goes around the outside, which is very brave to say the least. And look, there. Do you remember on the radio, Jenson said, I was in front of him when he came across on me. In other words, I think it was my corner. That was for the benefit of the stewards. But I don't think that's the case. It looks slightly different from the onboard. I don't know if that we can just play that through a little bit further now. And Jenson had to abandon at that point. He didn't get a complete shove, but Felipe didn't leave him any more room than he had to, and that's fair enough as far as I'm concerned. Let's have a look from on board Jenson, because it is a very close call. There's absolutely no doubt about this. And now we see Jenson. I mean, we're talking 190 miles an hour here, heading towards a chicane. He just flicks past him in the nice little bit of slipstream there. And he braves it out around the outside. But momentum is going to take them both well. It's very dirty where Jenson is now. And then he has to abandon to the right. And, well, no doubt about it, Button very much undone at that point, because he's going to get himself a drive-through penalty for not yielding. Martin Whitmarsh will tell us later on BBC that they asked what they should do, got no response, and then found out they were under a steward's inquiry. But I think it's for the teams to apply the rules as they see them and understand them. And for me, they made a mistake there, Jake.
OK, thanks, Martin. And I can put that straight away too. Martin Whitmarsh, who's joined us. Martin, you didn't have the benefit of hearing what Martin Brundle was saying there. But he said it's up to the teams to make the decision, and he thinks that McLaren made a mistake.
In which area did we make a mistake? Because I didn't have the benefit of listening to him. Always nice to hear the wisdom of Martin, of course.
Yes, of course it is. We're talking about the incident, I suppose, that defined Jenson's race, which was the drive-through penalty after the coming together with the Ferraris.
I haven't seen the incident, so I heard about it from the driver, who told me that he'd been run wide. We then immediately spoke to race control and said, this is what the driver tells us. We haven't seen it. Will you please advise us what you want us to do? Race control told us, we'll come back to you and we'll tell you. And we waited, and subsequently it got reported to the stewards without it coming back to us. If we could have done it differently, then obviously we'd like to have known, and Martin will probably tell me how we can do that.
Well, we've just found out this weekend that you can bring a pretty special upgrade to a Formula One race, so surely you've got the technology and the people at Woking to be able to watch this, which we can show you now, and then just give you a ring on the phone or on the radio and give you some advice if you haven't got the benefit of seeing this on the pit wall. Give us your thoughts as you watch it.
Well, again, I think that it's been a tough race, and I think we get information from the driver. He felt that he was pushed there.
Yep.
He didn't have a choice, and he went past. We then asked race control for an opinion. If they don't give us that opinion until it's too late, then we can't respond. So,
have you gone to the stewards and asked them why they hadn't the courtesy to come back to you?
We will be. Well, in fairness, the stewards can make a decision on that. That's it. But I think our problem is if you go to race control and say, what do you want us to do? Had they said, we're going to refer it to the stewards, had they said, we suspect that was wrong, or I don't agree with it, then we'd have accepted that opinion and we'd have tried to do something about it. But when race control, who have got all the screens live all the time, tell you that we're going to have a look at it and we'll come back to you, you wait for them to come back to you.
And the real frustration here is that actually Lewis drove a brilliant race. Your car was great and it was in bits underneath and it was still great. And actually Jenson had great pace as well. That's the frustration from you, I guess.
The frustration is we had two cars that should certainly been on the podium. One of them was, and I think Lewis did a fantastic job. He had a damaged floor and he'd lost performance and did a great job. Jensen, as you say, his race was spoilt by that incident. Otherwise, clearly, he would have been on the podium as well.
All in all, a positive weekend?
Yeah, of course it is. I think if you'd have given me this result a fortnight ago, I'd have snatched your hand off. But inevitably, when you're here, you want more.
Yeah, of course you do.
How have you managed to make that sort of turnaround? That's the thing that's just so shocking for everyone. It didn't look good in pre-season, yet you're right on the pace here.
Well, again, I am so proud of the team because you know how focused. You know a lot of the people yourself, David. They worked really, really hard. Absolutely, we decided pragmatically what we had to do at the time. The things we had to do were the manufacturing lead time would have put us beyond this race, and we just said, right, we'll have to improvise. We'll have to devise ways in which we can make the floor, the whole back of the car, the exhaust, and the team did a fantastic job. So, we've now got a basis from which we know we can improve it for the next race. And, I think we, apart from Mr. Perez, who was incredible, you have to say, on the option tyre, we weren't too bad on the tyres, and certainly we seem to be a bit lighter on the tyres than some of the cars around us. Hopefully in Malaysia that will still be the case, and I think that might also be something that gives us a bit of performance advantage.
Okay. Well, congratulations for the results that you did get, and Mr. Brundle's always available in a consultancy role if you'd like him to be.
Yeah, I've always valued his opinion.
As we all have. All right, thank you very much, Martin. Well done. I think we should bring someone in now who had a great race. We mentioned Sergio Perez there, but what about Vitaly Petrov, the second time that he's raced here in Australia? And I've never seen a man clutching a Formula One trophy as tightly as this. Fantastic. He's not letting that go. How proud are you, Vitaly, of this piece of metal?
I will be asleep with this tonight. I will be asleep.
I bet you will. You'll be holding that in your sleeve
Yes.
as well. Eric Boulier is alongside you. And Eric, people were talking over the winter about the team's decision to stick with Vitaly. Surely all the doubters now can be quiet because what a great drive by your driver.
Thank you, and thanks. He did a great job, I think, and it's a good reward for the team as well because they had a very tough winter.
Just turn that round and show us what you get for coming third at the Australian Grand Prix. David Coulthard knows what it's like to pick up trophies here.
Know very well, I think.
Yeah, same trophies, so they obviously just keep using the same provider, but fantastic result and great drive, very, very solid. So, only second year of your Grand Prix career, but you weren't at all fazed by having Fernando Alonso behind you. You had a bit of experience of that in Abu Dhabi last year.
I was quite, quiet because he was still quite on the back. So I knew it was still 5 laps to go. I tried to a little bit push, but not still hard. I need to save my tires, and then everything's great.
Do you think that there's more now responsibility on your shoulders because Robert is not there, therefore the team is relying on you to deliver what you've just delivered today, that this is a big moment now for you?
I think it was planned to be like this, but now I think it will be a little bit different because we are here now with you and with this trophy.
I bet. We'll sleep well with it this evening. It's not very comfortable to sleep on, but I'm sure you won't mind.
He doesn't care.
And finally, Eric, our thoughts have been with Robert Kubica this weekend. He would have loved to have been here. And actually, with the kind of pace that Vitaly has shown your car has got, he would have relished being in that car, wouldn't he?
Yes, but I think Vitaly did make some good progress during the winter. And obviously, yes, knowing the pace of Robert with the HIF, it could be better or worse, but definitely I don't want to think about the if, I think sure. We need to think about the future and we need to think about his way to be back here.
Have you spoken to Robert this weekend?
Yeah, we exchanged a couple of SMS last night, and actually I didn't tell you that he congratulates you.
How nice is that? Okay, well, congratulations from us as well. We'll add to the congratulations. Eric, well done.
Thank you very much.
We look forward to a season with Renault at the sharp end.
Yes, with pleasure.
Okay, congratulations. So there you go. That's the man who picked up a trophy for finishing third in the Grand Prix. But just behind us, amongst all of these people, and you can see them all on chairs, they've got their cameras out, they're taking photos of the man and the team who have won this Grand Prix. And guys, this has kind of become what happens on the F1 forum. We go on air, people send us tweets and emails, we speak to some drivers, and then we watch Red Bull celebrating a win.
Well, just the same as last year. It's just a few months in between for a short break, and we're back into the winning ways of Sebastian Vettel. I thought he drove absolutely brilliant. Some people get more inspired with success, and here is a man that's relishing every moment. I think that he looks every bit the perfect world champion. He actually said at one stage that he could go on and challenge Michael Schumacher. Well, we don't want to talk about that, but he certainly has a huge future.
Is Mark Webber in there, David?
Yes, he is indeed. Look, just behind Christian Horner on the left.
Which is, I guess, always difficult for a driver, but special.
Oh, there you go.
He's just going to get out of the way of the champagne, I think. In fact, same applies to us. We don't want that flying over the top to us. And David's disappeared off, maybe to grab a quick chat with Mark Webber. Eddie, what does this tell us about the strength of Sebastian Vettel, that he can come into the race after winning the title, having scaled the mountain, and put in a performance on a weekend like this?
Well, he's lucky because the environment that he's working in, this is a very friendly, this is a rock and roll team. If ever you needed a perfect mix between British engineering, Adrian Newey, Christian Horner, then Sebastian Vettel just very neatly and very nicely slides into that, and he absolutely is loving every moment of it. You can see the excitement, you can see the champagne. It just comes naturally to both the team and to him.
And they know how to party as well. This is almost Jordan-esque, isn't it, Eddie?
Oh, I don't even think, I mean, listen, this is heady days. I think Red Bull have brought it to a new level. We saw the celebrations in the swimming pool last year at Monaco and several other celebrations. They know how to work together, and the great thing is teammates, Mark Webber and Sebastian Vettel, they just gel together and the whole team surrounds them.
Let's talk about Mark Webber for just a moment. It was strange, he was so much off the pace of Sebastian Vettel, wasn't he?
He has a jinx. He has a jinx here. When you consider that he finished 5th in a minority here, 12 years ago, or whatever years it was ago. And here he is. He struggled to finish 5th today. There were some fairly basic errors. There was a tyre choice that I just don't think his strategy was up to the same level. And I'm sorry, but you know, where he finished was where he finished, and he never deserved to be on the podium today.
Yes, and if you just pressed the red button to join us on the F1 forum and you were wondering what on earth that was, well, it's known as the aftermath of a Formula One celebration. We tend to have more cameramen than drivers and team members in those moments. But let's hear from Mark Webber very quickly, because he spoke to Lee McKenzie.
Mark, how frustrating was it for you today on your home Grand Prix?
Yeah, very. I mean, it would have been frustrating wherever I was. It was a tough race, to be honest, and I was pushing as hard as I could, but I wasn't getting much back, so I don't know what, similar to yesterday, so haven't been on the pace all weekend, and obviously we'll look into why.
Are you thinking there might be something wrong with the car? Or?
No, I mean, of course, you want to look also at everything, yourself, but obviously to finish that far behind is not really usual, so I don't know what. Let's stay cool, first race, and disappointing obviously not to get a much better result here, because it was certainly possible, but in the end everyone deserved the result they got today, and that's what they got.
How did all the add-ons work? Are you using KERS on your car? Do you have KERS on your car?
No.
You don't have KERS?
We're all still talking about KERS, and we've got the team principal of Red Bull with us actually, and he's replaced David Coulthard. Just explain what's going on in Red Bull at the moment, Christian.
Well, David, obviously having reached the ripe old age of 40, is about to be presented with a cake. What he doesn't know is that he's about to wear it.
And there he goes.
There you go. So,
big wonder man here. I tell you what, if there's one man who doesn't want to spend Sunday evening covered in cake, it's David Coulthard. That's not his sort of thing, is it?
Definitely not, but wearing a pink shirt like that, what does he expect? And, I think
you're very mean. Come on, that's no way to behave.
Why do you think I'm speaking with you and not in there with him? Because that was always going to happen. So, but I can't believe he's only 40.
I know. He's looking very young for 40. While we watch this, actually, the team think very highly of David. Just give us an insight into what he brought to Red Bull, because obviously he left just as the real speed and the real success came to the team, which I guess must be slightly difficult for him.
David's a great guy, and he was a great driver. He joined us in the latter part of his career, when I first joined the team, and he brought a lot to us when we were very young, and he helped us to develop, he has played a role in what we've achieved today. That's why we still enjoy a relationship with him. We still wheel him out to drive the show car occasionally.
He loves that,
he was a very, very professional driver. He was a good example for the others, for the juniors that have since come along, and he's still got a valid contribution that he can make.
Well, Christian mentioned there that he's a pro. An example of how much of a pro he is.
Working.
If we go live in there right now, just moments after having had cake put in his face from Sebastian Vettel, he's going to chat to Seb for us, who won today's Grand Prix. David,
yes,
I'm afraid to say that we knew that was going to happen.
Right,
we should have warned you.
Thanks very much, guys, for telling me I was going to get chocolate cake all
you
over
look
the face.
great, though.
Get one thing clear: this is not chocolate here.
This is his new makeup.
It tastes quite good, actually. Is it something you brought from your farm?
It's your birthday today, so I know if you get older, some things you just can't hold them anymore. So,
well, thankfully it's the forum rather than the main show. But anyway, congratulations on your win. That was very impressive. You're also pretty handy at throwing chocolate cake.
What did you say?
I managed to get a little. You've removed it. Actually, is that some of your champagne from? Well, we're not normally able to drink on air, but you've just won a Grand Prix and I've just turned 40, so cheers. Yeah. Anyway, tell us something we don't know that you didn't just deliver on the press conference.
I was thinking of you all race long. No, I mean...
I'll settle for that, that's quite good. World champion inspired by ageing Scotsman.
Yeah, I was thinking, shit, one day I'll be turning 40 as well, so enjoy those days you have now. Obviously, it was a great race. I mean, start was crucial, and really pleased, the whole team. I think it's a very tricky car to work on, and some people were disappointed when we launched the car and they said, oh, it looks boring, it just looks like last year, they haven't done anything, they haven't been aggressive. But I think we have, and we have proven that coming here, and probably surprised a couple of people, so it's good. But it's fairly early. I think we enjoyed today, we can be very happy, but it will be a long way.
Okay, well, thanks very much for your time, and I guess you want to get out of your wet clothes, and I need to get this chocolate cake off my face, so cheers.
Brilliant. Oh, lovely. Look. Yeah, don't drink the microphone. That's not what you're meant to do in that situation. Great to see that your guy could drive as fast as that. He can deal with a world championship in a very level-headed way, and he can still party.
Yeah, no, he's you're taking it all in his stride. It's remarkable to think he's only 23 years of age. He's driven in just over 60 Grand Prix, and what he's achieved in such a short space of time is incredible. And today was one of the most measured performances that we've seen from him, where he was just awesome. He controlled the race, he pushed when he needed to, and it was very, very impressive today.
Okay, congratulations. Enjoy the celebrations. We'll see you in Malaysia in a couple of weeks. So let's now head back to Martin Brundle inside our analysis multiplex. What would you like to discuss next, Mark?
Well, DC and I were wondering if we could go back to the hotel and have a shower before we zoom to the airport, if we've got quite enough time, which is running out. I think that decision's just been made, hasn't it? I suspect we'll be going back for a shower. I'm also interested to see, as you're interviewing the various people, I'm thinking GP2 and how that feeder formula is really working for Formula One, isn't it? Petrov, Perez, Kobayashi, Maldonado. That's where Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg came out of as well. So they're really proving to be quite a good platform to develop young drivers, which is not what I'm supposed to be talking about at all. So what we're going to look at now is Vettel when he overtook Button. Remember, he said that it was a really crucial pass. He didn't want to get held up in his fight and lose track position during the pit stop phase with Lewis Hamilton. So we can run this. It's heading down towards turn 3. Jensen's keeping it nice and tight up the inside. Sebastian tries to go around the outside, cuts underneath and gets a better run through turn 4. And David and I debated this on the TV, and he absolutely went all 4 wheels off the track. And in the regulations, it's reiterated and strengthened this year that you must keep one tyre at least on the curb or within the yellow lines as they are around here. So that is a Red Bull that's made an overtake, although actually it has to be said the overtake was actually pretty much complete as he went into 4. He was ahead as he went into 4, so I think that is why the stewards may not have picked him up on that. And later on we saw maybe a slightly closer example, and when Buemi went past Sutil. It's a very similar set of circumstances. He ducks underneath at turn 3. Sutil's gone in a little bit deeper even than Button did. And he steams around the outside. He's actually slightly behind at this point. Runs completely off the track, exactly as Sebastian Vettel. But Vettel had really done the move by the time he got in there. And that is, I think you'll say, agree, 4 wheels just off the racetrack through there. And that piece of car park, it is literally a car park year round, is no man's land, and he is outside of the racetrack. But again, we didn't hear anything from the stewards on that one. Correct.
Okay, thanks very much, Martin. It's great actually to see that kind of analysis and be able to watch this race again and again, because Martin said at the end it wasn't necessarily the greatest Grand Prix we've ever seen, but these moments pass by so quickly. And first race of the year, it's good to just take a close look and see what's going on.
It is nice to take a close look, but I'm sure there's lots of teams frightened by what Martin has just shown us, because the stewards possibly, in the strict sense of the rules and the regulations, probably should have picked these people up. And of course, going back and ferreting through all of the different information that you got, I'm not sure it's always that terribly helpful. We had a good race. What we don't need now is a whole lot of stewards' decisions to change the order. We have a race finish. Let's enjoy it.
Okay, well, let's move on and talk about Paul de Resta. Good to see a Scotsman back in Formula 1 since David stopped driving in F1. We've spoken about Paul de Resta a lot. He's done a lot of Friday driving for Force India. We knew that he used to beat the likes of Hamilton and Vettel when he was racing in the junior series. Was it only a matter of time till this guy got his chance in Formula 1?
Well, full marks to Force India. They have a policy which was there for a long time to give young up-and-coming drivers, and it would appear Paul de Resta is one of the very lucky ones who hasn't had to bring a lot of financial support with him. He's there on pure merit, and I think he justified that today. I think it wasn't easy. We all know how quick Sutil is, and for a good part of the opening part of the race, certainly he was always ahead of him. And I think today he will go home, think about where he knows he can be quicker, and this will have been a huge, big bonus for him this weekend. And I may just add to that is it's a great credit to all the young rookies, because what we saw with young Perez, we saw again in particular with de Resta, the future is very bright for young up-and-coming drivers.
Okay, well, Paul de Resta is going to hot-foot it down the paddock any moment. David, David, it did go on your shirt as well.
Your pink shirt.
That's the last thing you want, isn't it?
Well, I did say to Seb, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what was being picked up on my microphone or not, but, unlike him who's getting a bonus for a victory, I don't get any bonus. I'm going to have to buy a new one of these. That hurts my Scottish blood.
I know. Well, we were talking to Christian, actually, afterwards. We were talking to Christian saying, one of the nice things about this team is, despite the fact that success has come their way, they have kept that slight madness, haven't they, and that ability to have a party.
The thing I just think is remarkable is Seb, he's just won his Grand Prix, the youngest world champion, and how relaxed he is, how witty he is as well.
Is it the sign of youth that he just takes it in his stride? It's just what he does. He races cars and he wins races.
I think you've either got personality and I think Martin describes it as having the extra capacity. The difference between being a good driver and a great driver is having that extra capacity to lateral think and come away with different things. And he's got a great sense of humour. I think he's hilarious personally.
He is a breath of fresh air, but David, to be absolutely truthful, you can't perform like that unless mentally you know you are the best. And he has that ability, he knows he's the best, and it does help the situation greatly.
Is there a ruthless element to Sebastian that we don't necessarily get to see?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Unquestionably, having seen him behind the scenes, he is absolutely clear on what he needs to achieve his goals. And when you say ruthless, it's not like he's stealing an ice cream from a child or something, but he just, when it comes to telling the team what he needs from the car and what he expects from them, he's very demanding of himself, but demanding of the team, and that's how you move forward.
Well, you were cleaning yourself up. We were talking about Paul de Resta, your fellow Scot who made his debut in Formula 1. We've been told he's 30 seconds away, so any moment we'll see a shot of him, no doubt, coming down the paddock to come and join us, hopefully. What do you make of his performance today?
I think it's a very solid performance. We need to try and understand exactly what the team decision was.
Well, there's lots of questions on Twitter, actually, about did he let Adrian Sutil through, or was it merely
let's ask him when he gets here. But I think that he can be happy to finish your first Grand Prix. Is you'll be able to tick that box. You now know what the experience is like, and I'm sure he'll build on that. But I think he's done a pretty solid job. You've had a lot of young drivers in your team over the years.
I've said actually I combined it into a group. I thought Perez did an outstanding job. For me, was the driver of the day, and de Resta did something just below that, but nevertheless absolutely outstanding for his first race. And we do need to ask him whether Sutil was allowed to pass, but even if he did allow him to pass or didn't, it doesn't really matter. He drove well and he finished strongly, and he will now learn so much about this. He's done the testing, now he's done the race.
And for all those people that say that these Formula 1 drivers are not in touch with reality, look at this guy. He's grabbed himself a microphone and he's come wandering down the paddock to try and find us. Thank you very much, Paul.
Well done finishing your first
for making the effort.
I think you go round beside Jake.
The first thing he says is
all these tall guys.
First thing he says is happy birthday, DC. We should be saying congratulations to you. How was that out there?
I think it was quite productive after a first race. Made quite a good start. I really just had a reasonable battle with Kamui Kobayashi, but Didn't come off the best from that battle, and I think our speed just showed where we finished. But I think relatively looking at it, our performance was better than expected this weekend. We've come into this, we knew it was going to be hard for the first 3 Grand Prix until some new upgrades start coming and a new philosophy behind our design department.
Okay, well, it is the F1 Forum, and it's all about people getting in touch with their questions. I asked for questions for you a few seconds ago. We've had well over 100 roll in, and actually a lot of them talking about yourself and your teammates and whether you decided or you were told to let Adrian through, or whether Adrian got past you. Just explain that to us.
Yeah, I mean, I let Adrian through twice. He was on a different strategy to me. We went on a different approach with the tyres, the prime and option. We were close in performance, but again at the end we were a bit optimistic with the fuel and had to go on a big fuel conserve for the remainder 20 laps, which was a bit disappointing. But I suppose given we're relatively inexperienced for this weekend, it was quite a hard Grand Prix, and I can only really look on and learn from everything from this weekend to go on to Malaysia, and it's a double header, so that should help me again.
Before the race, the race weekend, we were asking what your biggest surprise was coming into the weekend, and you're saying just the amount of work that's involved during a Grand Prix. Now you've actually done 58 consecutive laps. It's very different than doing 100 and whatever laps during testing, isn't it? Was there a point during the race where you sort of looked up and thought, God, there's still 30 laps to go, or did you feel all under control physically and mentally?
Physically, it wasn't too bad. I would have said I had more problems with the race sim at Barcelona, but I think this one's nutritious for not being too hard. I think it's a concentration level, and everything that's gone on in the cockpit now with when you can use the rear wing, the KERS, and just managing it all. And I did make a few mistakes, especially on in-laps with the procedures you have to go through. Didn't look so much from the outside, but I lost enough time to make a difference of me challenging other people. But again, it's new, and as long as I don't make the same mistake twice, I'll continue to press on and try and go on in the future from that.
Just one other thing on that. Sorry, Eddie. Did you get the chance to use your DRS at all? Did you ever get into that window? Was it effective? Because we've been debating whether that's a sensible tool to have at the driver's disposal.
I didn't get to challenge anybody with it. I got to use it quite a few times in the Grand Prix. I was close enough within that second to activate it, but I was behind Alonso when he made good use of it to do some overtaking in front of me. It certainly looked effective to him. What did help me was the KERS, and you can certainly save that at certain points in the lap to try and challenge somebody. And that's what I used when I was battling with Kamui and managed to get by him for a split second as it was, but it just wasn't to continue on from that.
I've got to ask you this because in years gone by, Suttel was sort of seen as the leader of the team, and very few drivers in that team ever would come close to him in terms of speed or performance finishing. You're a big surprise package. You've managed to do that. How are you now going to get up beside him and then pass him and pull away from him?
Well, I think this weekend, given I missed the first free practice as well, it's been quite a big job to stay in front. I managed to qualify in front of Adrian. I was in front of him at the start of the Grand Prix as well. I think my own performance is what needs to be worked on, and certainly qualifying and learning how the track improvement and how the car is at low fuel to get that extra bit and stay in front of him, because there were some big gaps at the beginning of sessions and certainly the beginning of qualifying sessions, and I worked up and built my speed up to then get close to him. And it's just about being on the top all the time and using your engineer to predict what the car is going to be like going into a qualifying session when the track rubber's in and it all evolves.
I'm sure you'll be looking at the areas you weren't happy with and the areas you can improve, because that's what racing drivers are like. But a nice question that came in from Enjoy Motoring: was it worth the wait? And that's the important thing, to actually take on board and savour the fact that today you made your debut as a Formula One driver.
Yeah, I did, and it's definitely worth the wait, and it's worth everything that you ever thought it was going to be. Somebody asked me the question, did you ever give up in F1? And I said, well, I would never have given up as long as I was racing DTM or whatever series I was doing until I eventually got myself in this car. But at the same time, I need to get the performance up to keep my seat, and that's what I'm going to try and do, and press on and try and do what I've done in other championships in previous years.
Great, well, you've won those championships, so we look forward to spending the season with you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Paul, and thanks for hot-footing it down the paddock as well to join us. Very good of you. All right, well done. And let's hope that Paul is spraying some champagne before too long in Formula One hate. Right, we're almost done on the F1 forum, but I think there's one man that we should hear from. He drove a rather poorly car around for the last few laps. He still managed to get on the podium. What a great performance here in Australia by Lewis Hamilton.
Well, Lewis, congratulations. A pretty good race in difficult circumstances, it seemed. Was that a case of damage limitation as well with your car at some points?
Yeah, I don't really know what happened there, but it wasn't as bad as it probably looked. But I'm just glad I was able to bring the car home. You know, at the end I was just trying to nurse it, but I think it's a real great result. I think the guys back at the factory can really be quite chuffed with that. I think the car felt great. It was really nice to drive, and was able to look after my tyres nicely throughout the race. Was able to apply pressure to Vettel already so early on in the year, after only really 2 weeks or a week and a half of having this upgrade. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can bring into the next couple of weeks. I hope they keep on pushing, and I know they will. And hopefully in the next race we'll be able to challenge the Red Bulls even more.
I mean, you say it's an upgrade, but it's been an exceptionally difficult few weeks for the guys back at the factory, hasn't it? I mean, they almost had to create a whole different car.
Yeah, the guys have, as always, they're always under an immense amount of pressure to build components and design new things and bring upgrades as many times as possible. But this one was a seriously tall order from the boss. And but you know, as professionals, they handled it with great care and came here, and we had, I think, the package looked great on the car, and it handled fantastic. And it really, I'm so pleased. I'm so thankful for all the effort that the guys have done, and I really can't wait to see what else they can bring for me. And I mean, that was one of the easiest races physically that I've ever had, and as I said, I've come here fitter than I've ever been. So I'm looking forward to going to the next race, which is probably the toughest race of the year. Hopefully with even better car, I think we can challenge for a win maybe.
You don't expect any scrutineers raining on your parade or anything looking at the car, the floors? How badly damaged was it?
It looked like it could be quite badly damaged, but...
so you having a look at it too on camera when you got out?
It looks a little bit badly damaged, but I don't know what implications that has in terms of the scrutineering. But of course, they're always here to make sure everyone's obeying the rules. But I think I went off a little bit, and I don't think you can really help if the car's broken from excursion off the track. So maybe they'll let us off. I don't know.
Sadly, I don't think they listened to Michael when he came out with that one in '94. But going back to Sepang, or going forward to Sepang, is this a track that you think your car is going to work well on? I mean, are you comfortable with it enough to think that that's it? It's going to work on most circuits?
Yeah, I know it's going to work on every circuit we go to from now on, and I know that the only way is up with this package. So, and I know the guys in our team know exactly where there is more, and we're going to just try to soak it up like a sponge and put it on the car as soon as we can.
Well done, Lewis Hamilton. That's one of a raft of really strong performances this weekend. Eddie's already said who he's plugged for. Sergio Perez is his driver of the day. David?
Well, I think it's difficult to argue with that. What an amazing debut. One thing to score points on your Grand Prix debut, but to go against the trend, and all the debate beforehand was with these Pirelli tyres, how many stops we're going to see, to do one stop and to be able to manage that from within the car. That's the thing that I think is quite remarkable. This isn't something that they discussed beforehand. They said, they didn't think they would have to, they'd be able to do, they would need to do 2 stops during the race, but he was able to get away with 1. So that's obviously a conversation that we've not been privy to, but he's been having with engineers. So
smart.
That's a lot more impressive than I expected for his Grand Prix debut.
Okay. EJ?
Well, exactly. I mean, Petrov, of course, is the other one. And, he wasn't... We were all wondering whether he'd be retained by Renault, never mind given the chance to do this. And what happens? Turns up at the first race, drives an immaculate race. Remember, he was hounded by Alonso and all sorts of different people, and he maintained his podium position. I thought that was a very strong result. I would just plumb for Sergio, because he just looks amazing. I mean, really, coming into a Grand Prix like this and doing what he did, particularly with the tyres, first class.
Incredibly white teeth, actually. Have you noticed?
Who, Eddie?
Did you notice that? No.
Oh, Perez. Yes.
Thank you.
Well, he's only young, isn't he? That's the way it is. Okay, well, that's pretty much it for us. Thank you very much for getting involved on the F1 forum. I'm pleased to say the hashtag BBC F1 has been trending on Twitter the whole time that we've been on air, and it's been great to give your questions to a few of those drivers. Plans between now and Malaysia, come on. I know you're off for a quick shower because Martin's already revealed that live on air, but you wouldn't have known that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. I'm off to the airport, touchdown and quick splash and dash at home, see the family, and then I'm off testing DTM next week.
Oh, nice. Okay, good luck with that this season. You've signed on for this year and next year? Or
yes.
Yeah, great. Okay, good. Eddie?
I'm going to New Zealand I'm going to go fishing with McDoon, and something I've been looking forward to for some time.
McDoon's multiple motorbike world champion for those at home who
five
don't know.
times
Yeah.
consecutive world champion.
Yeah.
Absolutely, a
He's
legend. out
right
there.
behind us in a blue shirt.
Yeah, we're probably clashing. Are we clashing shirts?
Listen,
you clash with him.
Eddie, there's nothing that you don't clash with. Well, we're looking forward to more of those shirts and more F1 forums over the whole of the season. Let's hope that they're as good as this one. Great to get all these drivers on. I don't know about you, but we're off for some cake for our Sunday morning breakfast. We'll see you in a couple of weeks for the Malaysian Grand Prix. Congratulations to Sebastian Vettel. He is the star of the show here in Australia. Bye-bye.
Stunning performance. Sebastian Vettel leads the 2011 Formula One World Championship.
Next time on Formula One, round 2, Malaysia.